Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card uses two different stamp sets that are really completely different, so I thought it'd be fun to combine them. I have the Avery Elle Good Fortune set. It's got an 8-ball and also a fortune cookie, so it's got two different uses. It's a really nice versatile set. I'm also using the Three Amigos, this fox right here. I'm going to put him on top of the 8-ball. I'll start by stamping my fox on Neenah Solar White cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment because I want to do this before I color, just in case I mess this up. I won't have to worry about wasting all that coloring. So I like to split my sentiments. I do this a lot. So I'm going to cover part of it with surgical tape, and then I'll ink it up, the part that I want, and then I'll stamp it down after I remove my surgical tape. I'm using the third part first, so the bottom, and then I'm just going to work my way up, and I'm going to center this on the little sign. And then I'll clean that off thoroughly, and now I need the middle portion, so I'll put my tape on either side, and then I'll take it off and stamp it right there in the center. And then I'll do the same thing for the first part of the sentiment. There are tons of sentiments that come with this Three Amigos set. I just found that this one also fit, so I thought it'd be fun, and I bet there's a lot of other sentiments that would fit on this little sign from different stamp sets. All right, now it's time to color. I'm going to take 3 different oranges. This is my lightest, and I'm going to first lay down my highlight, and then I'm going to work my way towards the highlight from dark to light. So this is my YR18. It's just a dark, rusty kind of orange, and I'm flicking upward from either side. Now, if I go over the line, it's no big deal because I'm going to be cutting him out, so you'll see me go over the line in a little bit. But I'm just kind of flicking upward toward that light area. And now I'm taking my YR12, so this is my middle orange, and I'm starting pretty much at the bottom, but not totally at the bottom, and flicking upward, but extending past where I ended with the darkest orange. And I'm going to do that on either side. So as you can see, I'm working my way toward that lighter area. And by flicking on top of my darkest orange, they will blend together. And then finally, I'll take the lightest one, the YR00, which is what I started with, and I'm just going to fill in that area and make it pretty wide so that all the colors blend together. Now, just to add a little extra pop, I went back in with my darkest orange and just flicked on either side, just on the very edge. And I'll just make it just a tiny bit darker, like it's rounding out toward the back. Since the tail is smaller, I'm just going to go from dark to light on either side. And I'm going to make sure that I add some of that dark orange between the tail and the body, so it looks like the tail is in the back, so you get a shadow from the front of his body. And then for his body, I'm going to just do 2 colors, the darkest and then the medium, because you're going to get mostly shadow behind that sign. And then finally for his paws and his ears, I just did the YR18 and the 12, so just the darkest and the medium. Mostly because these areas are so small that I don't have room for 3 colors. The other areas of this image are white, so I'm just going to take my W1. W means just warm gray, and then 1 means it's pretty much one of the lightest ones. And I'll put in that color where the shadow areas are, and then I take my 0 colorless blender, and I just go over the edges where the marker ended to just soften them out. For my 8-ball, I'm going to use my Misty just in case I have to stamp it again. I'm using VersaFine Black Onyx ink. I think it came out really nice the first time, but just to make it even darker, I did it a second time. And it's really amazing how well this ink really covers. You can see how pretty that looks. It's just nice and dark. There are dies that go with the Three Amigos, but I don't have them. Plus, I like to cut right against the edge of the outline. So I'm going to cut these out. Now with the 8-ball, I'm showing you here that I'm leaving a tiny little white edge where I'm cutting. And that's because if I try to go all the way to the black, I might cut into the black and then the ball won't look completely round. So that's why I'm leaving that little tiny white edge. I don't use a lot of pattern paper, but I find myself reaching for these Avery Elle packs. I've got 3 different ones. This one's the neutral one. It has grays, blacks, taupes, browns. It's just a nice subtle background when you don't want to go through stamping something. So I use the one that's kind of a grayish brown, the stripe, and I cut my piece to about 1 3/4 inches. I'm going to adhere it to my card base with my ATG, and this is 6 inches wide, so I'm just going to have my scissor. I'll just use my scissor to take the rest off. And now I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to go from pattern paper to card base so that when my marker kind of hits that edge, it'll just roll right downward onto my card base. And I'm moving it in probably about 3/8 of an inch. And so I'm going to do both sides first so that I can have my pen go in the right direction from pattern paper to card base. And then I'll just connect those two lines together. And it's not meant to be totally straight, so if it's a little crooked, that's just part of the look. I'm going to take some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, just some foam adhesive, and put my 8-ball on top of my pattern paper, just a little bit on the bottom. And then I'm also going to pop up my fox on the top. I took my W1 marker just to create a little bit of a shadow for my 8-ball. And that just kind of makes it look like it's sitting on something instead of floating. That completes the outside, so now I'm going to start working on the inside. I'm going to stamp my triangle again in Memento Tuxedo Black ink on Neenah Solar White. And then I'm going to take my Copic markers. I'm going to use B000. This is the lightest blue. And I'm using my chisel tip just to get a lot of coloring done at once. I hardly ever use my chisel tip, but it was really handy in this case. And then I'm going to take C1, which is just a very, very light gray, and I'm going to flick inward and create this shadow. And I use the gray because it just kind of darkens up my blue, and then it also kind of creates a little bit of a metallic look. I thought that was kind of cool. And then I just went over the whole thing one more time to blend it together with the blue. And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I'm using VersaFine Black Onyx ink because it's a pigment ink. It'll lay just on top. And I did let it dry for a few minutes in between just to make sure I didn't have any problems. And there are plenty of sentiments, all of them that associate with the 8-ball. It's really a fun set. So I'm going to put some ATG tape runner on there, and I'll just adhere it right there in the center in the middle of the card. And that completes the card for today. Just a fun way to combine two different stamp sets. My kids actually didn't get this, but my husband did. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.